You know, we were watching last night, and all over the state there was these like groups of people huddled in different parts of gyms and churches. Is this really the way we should be picking nominees in 2016? And is Iowa really the best place to set the stage for the primary season?
Uh, the answer to both of those questions is a resounding no. And first, I think just to give it some perspective, I mean, the coin toss thing is ridiculous. But remember, this isn't really democracy in action. This is a party affair. This is, because it's a caucus, the state election board has nothing to do with anything that happened last night, which is, again, why you can have coin tosses in a race that, they would have at least needed one recount, if not more. So I think that what we're seeing with this sort of outcome is why caucuses are just stupid. I mean, they sound great, they sound great in theory. Like a town gets together, they talk about candidates, people flip sides. But when they were, broadcasting live from the caucuses, I forget which network it was, but one of them, I think it was MSNBC. And one of them they were like just listening in to a caucus discussion, and a girl said the VA was fucked up. It was hilarious. But before that, they were talking about things, and the people who were stumping for Bernie Sanders were like that kid selling you the smartphone that has no idea how the smartphone works. I mean, they were just saying things to convince the person in front of them, regardless of whether they're true or not. Say what you will about elections, but, you at least go into the voting booth with the information that has come out, instead of having someone on site going, no, actually this is true, and it's not. So I think caucuses are ridiculous, and if this is an evidence of why, maybe it does say something bad about what passes for democracy in America right now.
Yeah, that clip with the girl saying that the VA is fucked up is all over. I don't know if they have the full one with the kid explaining Bernie Sanders' tax policy, and he's literally just like saying these buzzwords that don't even fit into a sentence. It's just infuriating. And meanwhile, on the Republican side, they all went, they put in a little thing, they vote, everyone's happy, we know of a winner within like an hour. So just vote. Eric, do you want to jump in?
Yeah.
I disagree with some of Josh's points. I think the caucuses are ridiculous as well. I'll admit that. But I think that they do have a large bearing on the election, because let's say Sanders did win last night with a decent margin, and maybe that momentum would have carried forward. And we don't know, it still could, but it could have carried forward in a more meaningful way to the further ones. But it also means that maybe now Americans say, oh, Sanders didn't do well enough. Okay, just time to go with Clinton. Let's just concede. And now maybe we'll be stuck with a Clinton presidency, which is even worse in some ways. Secondly, I still can't believe that in the modern technological era we live in, we can't form some form of online voting yet. I mean, with all the security we have in place, you're telling me that we can't set up an online voting system, or even for caucuses or for the real election. It's dumbfounding that we haven't done it yet, because there's so many laws or so many rules that bar people from voting that would love to be able to vote, or people that, like Igor said, have lives and don't want to wait hours in a line. And we shouldn't be discouraging people from voting. Igor, you disappeared, by the way.
Or just the insanity of people counting hands and counting ballots like this is like some sixth grade student council election.
Yeah.
In shower bins.
Also, we do our taxes online in the United States. We apply for unemployment and food stamps online in the United States.
With our Social Security numbers.
With Social Security, those of us who have any money do our banking and our investing online. I mean, this is not rocket science. And yet,
I can't. I'm sorry to cut you off here, because this is a topic that aggravates me. I just cannot believe when politicians say, oh, it's for safety or for the legitimacy of the election to make sure there's no voter fraud. There's not going to be any voter fraud. Like you said, if people are willing to manage millions of dollars of their money online and investments and stuff with no fear, but we're so afraid that one extra vote gets cast through some system, like it's not.
I think we're convoluting. I mean, on the Republican side, they just go in and they vote, and then they count them, and that's who wins. And the Democratic side, they don't do that. They huddle off to the side, and then they yell at a bunch of people who don't agree with them to agree with them. It's not really the same as voter fraud.
College student problem. That's like a liberal privilege.
you're back to this other idiocy in double idiocy in the United States. I mean, first of all, the fact that we're allowed to have 50 systems, and some of them, like Iowa, appear to be shit that people made up while they were stoned. Hey, dude, what if we do this? Yeah, I got this great. What if we play Pink Floyd and everybody gets in a gym and talks? That would be, so that's one. The other is this amazing insanity of voting that doesn't, particularly count in the end, because it's all based on delegates and things where it's this mysterious, complex process. I mean, even like in the 1600s, people had better ideas about how all this was going to work. And so we have these systems that are almost, wink, designed to be manipulated by people, by making the rules to the point where people don't understand them. I watched CNN last night, and say what you will, the one guy they got on there, John King, appears to be one of the few sentient people left at the organization. And I was still sober. I was still sober at that time, and I couldn't really understand how this system was supposed to work. And to then come back and draw any kind of realistic conclusions from it, and then to find out it's all a coin toss. I don't know. Bernie should have won.
Well, regardless of who won by 0.2%, Iowa doesn't have a lot of delegates. They're going to be split more or less evenly, so it's basically a tie between Sanders and Hillary. But
yeah, that's one thing
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to just say that's one thing that I'm sort of surprised about is that, I know we need
Josh
to be made on either side, but it was a tie. It was a tie. Oh, sorry, man. I was just saying it was a tie, and I don't know why we can't call it a tie.
Exactly.
I think a tie for Sanders is still a success, though, considering the underdog candidate story that he's overcome through this entire process. Still a success, but I just feel like he did, in my opinion, win. And because of a couple stupid coin tosses that somehow all 6 went in her favor, it's odd, and it's a little fishy at times. I'm not suggesting it was fraudulently happened. It's just bad odds, but
hell yes it was. No. I mean, this is like the end of Rocky, right? I mean, where Apollo Creed wins on points, but everybody knows it was Rocky's victory.
Yeah,
and that's why this is important. Because as Josh pointed out, and I would have loved to see Sanders take a pop at her, but as Josh pointed out, the number of delegates involved here is tiny. It's about 1% of the total that's needed to nominate. So it doesn't matter in that sense, and neither does New Hampshire. What matters in these early contests is what Eric was referring to: momentum, publicity. This put Bernie Sanders onto the mainstream media. They can't ignore him anymore. People have to listen to what he says. I suspect he's seen an uptick in volunteers. He's seen an uptick in donations. It also pokes another hole in this myth of the invincibility of Hillary in 2016. And so there's a lot going on here. And sure, who gets those delegates is not what matters here. So I think it was a technical win for Bernie, win on points, if you'll pardon the multiple layers of puns there.
Already on TV, they're playing Bernie Sanders rallies live like he's Donald Trump or something. So obviously, in just 12 hours, we've seen a huge land